And then once you log into SingPass, you change the password, then you can do a lot of shit.
Then the scammers have hold of your SingPass lah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some serious crimes. Like someone on the Reddit said, bro, does this mean our CDC vouchers also will be to the new address?
You never know, man. You never know.
You might lose your CDC voucher.
It might be worth the time, $300.
Yeah. So then you look at it, you're like, oh shit. And the NRIC comes into play because if you have someone else's NRIC and their date of issue, technically you can change their address lah.
Yeah.
It's the new year, which means birthdays, anniversaries, and special milestones are just around the corner. And if you're struggling to find a gift for someone who already has everything, surprise them with something truly unique. A personal podcast that tells their life story. Created with Folklory. Here's how we work. Order your Folklory and tell us who you'd like us to interview. Our expert interviewer will have a heartwarming 30-minute chat with them, and in just a week, you'll receive a studio-quality podcast capturing their stories. Perfect to cherish for generations. Want to make it even more special? Get our limited edition retro-style Bluetooth speaker pre-loaded with the podcast, so it's ready to play as soon as you receive it. Order now at folklory.com. If you have questions, you can also reach out to us on WhatsApp. All the links are in the show notes. And now, on to the podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terrence?
Good old humor.
Good old humor, man. How was your good old weekend, man?
The weather's insane. I don't know what country we're in right now.
It's amazing. It's so amazing that there were multiple times during the weekend where I actually felt sad because this weather was going to end at some point. Which is damn stupid because it was amazing.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, at the same time, it's it's kind of crazy that on the other side of the world there's crazy wildfires going on, lack of water, everything. Over here, we have so much that we can't deal with it, flash floods and everything, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can't. I'm guessing this has happened in Januaries of the past few years, but the amount of rain, like literally since Friday, it almost rained non-stop. There'll be pockets here, but the rest of the time, it's just sometimes it can be soft rain, heavy rain, the pitter-patter, you know.
And the temperature is just this perfect 25 degrees Celsius.
In fact, I think it hit 21.7 on Saturday morning.
Yeah, Saturday morning. Yeah. But the crazy thing is, I spent a bit of time in JB, Johor, over the weekend. And while I was in Johor, actually, there were a lot of pockets of blue sky and no rain, So I was outdoors and all for a bit. But the moment I drove back to Singapore,
wet,
it just started pouring again. And I don't know whether it was just for some reason in Singapore we are under this giant cloud that's just going non-stop.
I think so, because the whole time you look up the sky, it's been grey.
Yeah.
And grey is my favorite. Remember the melancholic weather?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, very, very melancholic. You stand by the window and you just look out, then you're thinking about life and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's great.
But it did kill weekend plans for a lot of businesses as well.
Oh, that's
I think the Chinese New Year bazaars all reporting 80% less footfall than what they expected.
The wrong Pagoda Street and all that, right?
Yeah. And
even the bicycle rental and all.
Bicycle rental, flash floods, events, people who are having outdoor events over the weekend.
Yeah.
Got screwed, yeah.
So, I mean, it's great for some people.
Yeah.
I know we at least know one person who runs his own F&B thing, and he said whenever there's rain, footfall just goes down.
Oh, yeah.
It affects the business.
Right. That's right, yeah.
So probably he had a shitty weekend.
Hates anyone who loves this weather.
Yeah. I mean, with our kid also, yes, the rain, a bit of a chore, but I mean, we still managed to go out here and there. Of course, we can't walk unencumbered,
Yeah.
But this weather is just, whew. Well, of course, it also gives you inertia to move, Do you find that?
Yeah.
You just want to just be at home and chill and all that. But yeah, it's wild times.
But this is the vision, kind of for Singapore. You wish that there's this utopia that there's this weather, not even seasons. If the weather was like this year round, I think Singapore would be an amazing place to just live, right?
No, but don't you think that the grayness, it does get your mood down a little bit?
Of course, yeah. Everyone needs a bit of sunshine, yeah. But what kind of sun, that's the thing. In Singapore, the sun we have is relentless, it's punishing. I don't think I ever understood what it meant to be out on a nice day, until I like actually lived overseas for a bit, and then I experienced what a summer day is like. Why people go on the lawn and roll around the grass in
where
summer.
the sun is there, but you're not leaking sweat out of every pore of your body. Right?
The sun is more like this little torchlight, right? That just illuminates your day, but everything's just very comfortable.
It's like,
whereas Singapore cannot. It's an oven, like when the sun's out, it's an oven. Even when it rains like this, like after the rain, when the sun comes out, it's like you're being steamed. You become a steamed chicken.
That's true. But I mean, I haven't. The last time we went to Dubai for Ministry of Funny, we didn't go in the crazy heat, right? Because in the Middle East, the heat, that is like next level dry heat that cooks you,
Correct.
Yeah, so Singapore, I think just it was in December or November, the heat was searing. Just crossing the traffic light, only you sweat.
It was very on-off this week, but this last 2 days has been fantastic.
And I mean, last week, right, they said there will be heavy rains from January 10th to 13th. And literally, I was expecting, some pockets of like sunshine and all, but no, it's just been a constant rain. If we had lower temperatures, it would be the equivalent of a blizzard.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you walk out, it's just little drops. Wow, like it's just, whew.
Yeah.
But there was one, I think, content creator or influencer who got flamed in the US because I think on the East Coast, there's having like a very cold spell. And I think she insinuated something about, if only she could enjoy some of the heat in LA.
Yeah, correct.
Fucking idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, like what you said, on the other side of the world, you see what's happening in LA, then all these conspiracy theories coming out about why these fires have gone, like out of control. But yeah, crazy times, man.
Does it make you fear how climate change is going to continue wrecking our environment and all?
I mean, like I think like what how certain terms you think like kind of like you don't think we should use it anymore in certain situations. Like the last episode was gaslighting and all. Last week I met someone who's like done a lot of work in the climate thing, and she said something that made a lot of sense. She said we all need to stop using the term climate change and call it the climate crisis.
Why?
The climate always changes.
Correct.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that historically, yes, thousands, millions of years, the climate always changes.
Yeah.
So by saying climate change, it's very easy to be like, people, but the climate's always changing. But it's a climate crisis.
Yeah.
Because then I was thinking, even if the climate is changing due to no part of mankind, it is still a climate crisis.
Yeah.
Like with all these extreme weathers happening, then I was like, so climate crisis, not climate change.
She's not wrong, because I've been watching a lot of documentaries about dinosaurs lately because got a kid and everything, right? And it's true that Earth's climate has like quite radically changed in, the last, in the last hundreds of millions of years, right? But I don't think the dinosaurs ever got together and said, hey, we got to stop climate change. But
they were just like, fuck, it's hot.
Yeah. It's a crisis.
Or like, it's damn cold. We need to grow some like fur.
Yeah.
It's a crisis. I mean, I still think that man's actions have resulted in changes of the climate. But climate crisis is undeniable.
Yeah.
Right. Climate crisis.
I mean, the thing about the LA fires, what do you think is why do you think it's so captivating? I mean, every year there are big fires in California and everything, but this time it seems to be everyone's looking at it. Why?
I mean, because of course, like social media right now, there's still a lot of Western influence. Anything happening in the US that's capturing their minds will capture the minds of the world. But also, there's a lot of politics involved.
Oh, really?
Because I think there's a change of president coming soon, right?
Yeah.
And it feels like, even as a layperson, right, looking at it, it happens every fucking year.
Yeah.
And has there been no progress at all in thinking how to limit this? Then when you, of course, go down the rabbit hole on X and stuff like that, then you see a lot of, apparently the California governor reduced the budget to combat fires by 100 million or something like that. Then you're thinking, oh shit. So I think that's that whole thing, which is going crazy on X, coupled with the scale of the thing, because visually it's also like damn scary.
Yeah.
Plus a bunch of celebrities who are also getting affected, which amplifies the reach.
Yeah. Some of the craziest videos I've seen are the people who are actually in one of the houses while the neighbors' houses are on fire and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking like, wow, what do you do in that situation, right? Like when you see fires raging all about you, and you don't have really much access to anything, like whether it's water or anything at all. You can't you're just helpless to do anything, right? To get the fire, get out of the line of fire, so to speak, right?
And I mean, in some way, protect your house also, right?
Yeah. So it's like, And I see like people saying online, getting quite cynical about it, that, oh, these are all the rich people who live in Malibu and everything. But at the same time, people have also pointed out that, even if you're very rich or what, like the fire also just destroys all your memories and your possessions, which are very valuable to people, right? Whether it's family heirlooms or photos and everything. So no matter how much money you have, a lot of these things you can't buy back or so.
But do you know if the fires right now have reached points that they haven't reached in the past? Because I would imagine people, when buying property at areas that are maybe high risk, is this ever a thought or something that you are told or aware of that, okay, there is a risk? Or is it just the fires have gone so out of control that it's going into uncharted territory?
I think the scale of damage, the cost of damage is what will be the worst, if not one of the worst. But in terms of the size, I'm not 100% sure. But the winds also are quite unprecedented. That's what they're saying. Because I was trying to read up a little bit about firefighting techniques. Like, why is it difficult if you have, let's say you have access to a fire engine and a hose and everything? Why is it still hard to put out these fires? And they point out that the winds are so strong that even if you spray a very dedicated stream of water at it, the water ends up, being blown away or evaporating from the heat from the fire, and then the wind that's also blowing at the same time. So that's why even like a plane going over the fire and like spraying water wouldn't work.
By the time it reaches the fire, it's all
gone, because the wind either takes away or it's just evaporated from the extreme heat already. So it's like there's physics at play pretty much, in this situation that a firefighter can't control, right? A firefighting department can't control. So it's not even about the budget or not having water or anything. It's literally just the conditions are just like a perfect storm.
Of course, it doesn't help that I think one of those planes that, we've all seen footage of it dropping water, clashed with a commercial drone.
Oh, yeah.
That was filming the fires.
Correct.
Yeah, so then that whole plane was out of commission for a while.
Yeah.
But crazy, man.
Yeah, but it's kind of crazy. These are things that we don't think about that much in Singapore, right? Emergency rescue operations and things like that with regards to fires. But if you live in that part of the world, it feels like you kind of just got to take care of it yourself. You just got to find a way to take care of yourself in those situations.
Yeah.
And in Singapore, we are like, one MRT breakdown and, it's like, there's a scrambling to try and solve it and everything.
I saw online on Reddit, I think in response to the rain, because people were posting, like CBD with rain is such a vibe, And one of the comments was like, rain so much, government never do anything. What the fuck you want them to do? Of course, you hear all these theories of cloud seeding to, spread out the rain or bring the rain forward. But, I mean, come on, man. That one I felt a bit unjustified.
It could have been a sarcastic comment.
Maybe.
I think I saw the same one on Reddit.
True. It's just funny. It's funny. It's just funny.
But I remember that for every one of you smiling about the weather, there's probably someone also cursing about it, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's because the business is affected or the weekend plans got dashed.
But there's also some other things in the news which we will jump into. But before that, Terrence, what's our spiel?
If you're new here, please like, share, follow, subscribe on whatever platform you're watching this on, YouTube or Spotify, or any of the social media channels that we're on. And if you want to work with us,
hit us up at contact@ministryoffunny.com or just drop us a message at ministryoffunny.com.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Cool.
All right. So, the first topic, I mean, of course, it mentioned 4 letters that are very hotly debated right now.
Yeah.
It is the news that the ICA, which is the Immigration and Checkpoints Authority of Singapore, have suspended their online service for changing addresses after about 80 cases of unauthorized attempts using compromised SingPass accounts. So basically, anyone listening, that you may have done this yourself also, when you move house or whatever, you have to change your residential address.
Yeah.
As of 2020, it was a feature that was implemented on the ICA website to allow you to do it online. Because, last time if you wanted to change your address, you literally have to go down to ICA. So since 2020, it could be done online. But since September 2024, apparently, they had picked up a few cases of unauthorized changes in residential addresses.
Yeah.
And then, and I quote, ICA said more cases surfaced recently. And by December 2024, ICA's investigation uncovered how the unauthorized changes were made, and recently they disabled it, but it would likely be reinstated on January 14th. So when you were seeing this article, Terence, what was the first thing that came to mind?
I mean, the first thing, like you said, that came to mind was, oh shit, is this linked to the NRIC thing? Because as far as we know, there were no known threats, right? Who accessed the NRIC numbers. And on the surface, it seems like these incursions started in September 2024 already. So it was even before, a lot of people's IC numbers were unmasked to the public, right? So that was the most immediate thing I thought of. Reading it, I mean, there's a bit more to it than I realized. But what did you feel when you first heard of it?
I mean, same thing. I was like, oh shit. Does this have to do with the NRIC? Wouldn't say leak, unmasking.
But it's shit has hit the fan when they're doing a press conference on a Saturday, right?
I mean, when I saw the articles on Reddit and all with the picture of the 4 people at press conference, I was like, wait, is this an old picture?
Yeah.
But no, it happened on Saturday.
Saturday press conference.
And you can understand why, because I would imagine when they say things like this, where the NRIC, it is part of the process of how people could get scammed or unintentionally have their address changed. You have to address it. I mean, there's a press release. There's no video of the press conference that I could find. But essentially, right, why they say this is a scam, which is also pretty scary how actually it makes a lot of sense and it is a big loophole. Because, from what I understand, to do a change of address online, it either needs to be you, a family member, or someone you nominate. And if you nominate someone, they need to log into their SingPass and then just know your NRIC number and date of issue.
Correct.
Right? So in this case, there were about 80 attempts, 75% of which were successful, where they logged in as others and managed to change addresses. And I was thinking, why the hell would you want to change your address? Because what they would do is they change your address.
You're asking why the scammer would want to change your address. Okay.
You change your address by going into the electronic change of address portal, the ECOA. And then once that is done, then you say that you have forgotten your SingPass password.
Correct.
And even before that, like when they change your address, right, the process actually is you key in your new address, they will mail a PIN to that new address for you to complete the process. So which means that, if I want to scam, change your address, I just log in, key in my home address or this third-party address, and then when I get the PIN, I'll complete the process of changing the address. Then once the address is changed in the system, I will click on Forgot Password for SingPass. And then you'll say, okay, don't worry, we will mail you a new password at your registered address, which is now the new address. And then once you log into SingPass, you change the password, then you can do a lot of shit.
Then the scammers have hold of your SingPass.
Yeah. And some serious crimes. Like someone on the Reddit said, bro, does this mean our CDC vouchers also will be to the new address?
You never know, man. You never know.
You might lose your CDC vouchers.
It might be worth the time, $300.
Yeah. So then you look at it, you're like, oh shit. And the NRIC comes into play because if you have someone else's NRIC and their date of issue, technically you can change their address.
Yeah. They did say that there was no indication that foreign scammers were involved. The scammers were likely to be locals and no particular demographic of victims that they target. Although we know that the main point of nominating someone else to do this for you is if you are old and maybe less tech savvy, right? But you don't want to have to go to ICA or I think last time you can go police station and all that to change your address, right? So there's a very clear demographic of people that probably will be very susceptible to this,
So after, reading about this, finding out all the details and all, do you think this is does it allay any concerns you might have that, oh shit, this might be linked to the unmasking of the NRIC?
I mean, I think we've all met people, right, who look at us in the face and say, this NRIC thing is nothing. Everything that's been happening with this NRIC thing is nothing.
It's publicly available info.
It's publicly available info since the 1960s, 67 when it was introduced. NRIC is nothing. Well, I mean, I think this is a chance for them to look at it again, right? Because here quite clearly, NRIC, the line between it being an authenticator and just an identifier is a bit blur in this instance, right? Like when we say NRIC is an authenticator, means it almost acts like it's designed to act like a password if it's an authenticator. When we say it's an identifier, it's not a password. You still need something else, right? So in this case, they need the NRIC number, which, it's not difficult to get, as we know now. And also the date of issue of your NRIC, right? So in this case, which one is the identifier? Which one is the authenticator?
Right? Because Jo Teo was very clear in Parliament that just the number, that is an identifier. And the only time I think she said authenticator is either the physical NRIC or the digital NRIC in SingPass.
Yeah.
So in this case, it is neither of those, but yet it's still being used to authenticate someone who is supposedly rightfully changing your address.
Yeah.
Which feels a bit concerning.
Yeah.
And I mean, as much as these two cases might not be related. Maybe in December, the scammers, were having holidays from their day jobs, and they're like, okay, we have more time now to, scam people. So that's why there was a spike.
Yeah.
But I think what we mentioned previously and what other people have highlighted is also that NRIC itself might not be something that would make you susceptible to hacking. But it is one piece of info that might make it easier for a hacker to hack you or even socially engineer a hack. And I was thinking, actually, but socially engineer how? I think some people on Reddit pointed out that if you have someone's NRIC number, I mean, yes, if you can almost, if you have a wide enough pool, you can almost guess the number, a date of issue.
Yeah.
But more likely, if you end up calling someone and saying, I have your NRIC number, I'm calling this, can I just confirm your date of issue? There will be people who will fall for it.
Yeah.
So to people who say NRIC info is out there, if you want to find someone's NRIC info, you can find it. Yes, you can. But when you're presented it on a silver platter, it just makes these kind of things easier.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, which is very worrying. And then you think about it, like, you've used Health Hub before, right? If you want to add yourself as like a caregiver for someone else, you can't do it through the app. No?
Oh, really?
You have to go down to the polyclinic.
Okay.
Yeah, which to me is like, okay, it makes sense for these kind of things where you are basically transferring responsibility to someone to go down face to face.
Yeah.
For this, I didn't know that another person could technically change your address.
Correct, yeah.
And that is what is worrying, because this is not just a random government agency. It is an agency that you would expect to be on top of the game when it comes to identity theft or identity scamming.
Correct.
It's ICA.
Exactly. And I think you did a very good job laying down what the whole process is, what the scammers are doing. But people online have very immediately called out the loophole that exists. Is that why is it that when changing or asking to change your password or PIN or changing your home address, there's no face verification that's asked for of the original person from SingPass? Because a lot of SingPass services requires your Face ID, right? So how come it isn't required for this? Because if you want to nominate someone to help you do things, the scenario would be you'll be sitting next to the person, and then they'll be in front of a computer and your mobile phone. And if they want to do a Face ID, it should be quick and simple, right? So how come that didn't exist in this process?
That's true. Right? You always get a prompt where you click approve or cancel.
Yeah. And then you get a Face ID check, right?
Yeah.
So how come they didn't have that for whether it's the change of address part or the forgot password and all that part, right? So even just separate from the NRIC thing, there seem to be some loopholes in the system that people have quite quickly pointed out already.
Yeah, so I mean, then it unfortunately, there is a video of the 23-minute press conference on the Straits Times article.
Okay.
But I mean, unfortunately, the NRIC unmasking, even if it might not result in any actual scams, it has reduced people's confidence.
For sure.
And when you see these kind of things, you think, oh shit, what other websites in Singapore have loopholes? I don't know whether Singapore does this thing where, they have a group of hackers, ethical hackers, who, are tasked to just try and break down the systems and then report back and be constructive.
Yeah.
I don't know whether there is. I mean, if there is, I can imagine them not being public.
Bertha Hansen.
Oh, yeah, Bertha Hansen. Exactly, Bertha Hansen.
She's one woman.
She's a social hacker. Yeah, you call her journalist, you call her, commentator. She's a social hacker, which is essentially the role of those sort of ethical hackers, right?
Yeah.
You are put in there legally to test and break the system and report loopholes.
Yeah.
Because it's a huge loophole. It's crazy. Even the thing that's so simple, like if you change your address, they send a pin to the new address.
Yeah.
Feels like that also, like when you're designing the system, is that really the best thing?
Correct. The changing of the pin, right? I mean, or sending the pin to your home address.
Yeah.
Yeah, there should be one more layer of security embedded in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in this case, this was already a loophole. Then when that whole NRIC unmasking thing, it was revealed that website doesn't protect against bots that scrape, and they had to implement the tool. That really makes you think, oh shit, like what other government websites have issues or have loopholes that are waiting to be exploited?
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious, like, does this fall under Ministry of Home Affairs or Ministry of Digital Development and Information to take the lead, right, for explaining or at least fronting this, right? Because ICA is under MHA, right? But this is a big digital loophole that seems to exist based on the Singapore digital services that we provide, right? So which minister or what should be fronting the...
Probably Jyoti over the weekend was like, oh, fuck, please, please.
That's why they always say do all these bad announcements on a Friday, so that at least, let it sort of sit on the weekend, everyone's enjoying the nice weather and all that, Then the following Monday, everyone comes back and continues cowpaying about it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, these ICA commissioners had their Saturday ruined.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing this will also be brought up in Parliament.
It has to be. I think this is a very clear case already. I mean, it's a very clear instance of where maybe unmasking NRIC numbers at such an early phase when the agencies still need to iron out the communication between them. It hasn't been ironed out yet. Maybe they need to really think twice about the next steps. Right?
Yeah, and I mean, also, I think it's not all on the government. I have totally sent scans of my NRIC front and back to, I don't know who the hell has requested it in the past, but and I mean, it's not something I guard as strongly as my credit card number, for example. But I'm quite in fact, I have it quite readily accessible on Google Drive, and I always feel like, oh, you need it? Okay, here go. Oh, you need it? Here go. But then now, when things like this can be changed so easily, right?
Yeah.
With that info.
Yeah.
Then it makes me think oh shit, this NRIC is actually a hotbed of potential scamming,
Yeah.
And we're told that, it's public knowledge and all that.
It's nothing, Harish. It's nothing. Why are you making such a fuss about it? Generally, our government is doing a fantastic job at everything. Why are you making a mountain out of a molehill?
Yeah,
you don't know better.
Yeah,
you don't know better.
You're right. I don't know better, I don't know better.
In case anyone is thinking that I'm very serious about that, that was just completely sarcastic, right?
Yeah.
I know people have been calling me out for being a mouthpiece, right? So I just need to clarify. I do think we Singaporeans do need to take our privacy concerns more seriously, and we want our elected officials to take our privacy concerns more seriously than they have demonstrated in the last couple of months.
Yeah.
And this is an instance where I feel, it shows you that, it's like what you said, it is one of the things that the factors that can lead to people being scammed, right?
Yeah. Because I mean, now they said the system will be reinstated on 14 January. Don't know what measures will be in place, but yeah, I'm just surprised. And yes, they caught 80, but I don't know, were there other attempts? Apparently about 900 change of addresses are done every month through proxies. But even then, right, maybe this is one of those things that we all need to be okay with, having to go down face to face.
Yeah.
And if you really cannot, or if you're overseas, then the process to do it needs to be a lot more robust. Because now with everything all digital, we always hear the push, right? If you don't accept PayNow as a vendor, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
But you go all digital, then you got risk of this.
Correct.
Hiyo.
This is the realities, right? That Singaporeans have not caught up with.
Yeah, and I'm sure in Parliament they would say, okay, what was the exact date that we saw a spike in this camp. Suddenly, December, it was December 4th to December 13th or something.
9th to 13th.
Or 9th to 13th. Suddenly 10, 11, 12, just the peak.
But it takes time, right? It takes time because the process
to get
the pin and everything to send it physically to you. So there will be a delay of like a couple of weeks at least.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So actually the key thing is to see a couple of weeks later, did we have 500,000 requests to change?
Oh, that's true. And I mean, for everyone to just go in and check your own address.
Check.
I haven't checked mine.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, it kind of keeps you on your toes. You just constantly got to be checking all your digital services and your digital hygiene, so to speak.
And if people ask for front and back NRIC, now should you say, I saw on Reddit, some people say even for the parking in their building, right? When they are already a tenant, they still need to submit their NRIC. Yeah, and it feels like, oh shit, should we guard it more? Because now I think credit card generally sending over the phone, people are kind of like, okay, don't do that kind of shit, right?
Yeah.
But maybe NRIC also, anybody asks, hey, can I have your front? And you're like, no. Why?
When you go to buildings, right? When you go to like those big buildings, they ask you to exchange NRIC. Yeah. You gotta be careful. You say, no, I don't want to give you my NRIC.
That's true. Sometimes they keep your IC.
Yeah.
Or even if they don't keep, they take and verify like that.
Yeah.
Just remember lah.
Yeah. It gives them they can, not even to scam you. If you wanted to ruin your day or just like be mischievous and change your home address, which will cause you a lot of problems.
Yeah.
There's a way to do that, or there was a way to do that.
Or maybe if you're rude to them, some of these personnel.
Yeah.
Hey, hurry up, what are you doing my card? Then you just, while you're upstairs having your meeting, they just fucking change your address.
Changing your address and on spot.
Address. That's why.
Yeah.
You never know, man.
Oh,
Allah. Crazy. Crazy, man.
But yeah, so that is those are the things that we Singaporeans should be careful about. But at the same time, our former Prime Minister, now Senior Minister Lee Hsien Loong, also advises Singaporeans to be cautious about something else, right? And that has also ruffled a bit of feathers online and among commentators. What did he ask us to be careful about?
Incidentally, he mentioned this on the same day that the ICA commissioners were having their press conference, 11 January, which was this past Saturday, a rainy Saturday. And it was at an appreciation dinner held by SINDA, which is the, what does it stand for? SINDA.
You don't know what SINDA stands for?
Fuck you.
I'm asking, no. Singapore Indian Development Association, Harish.
Oh, yes, SINDA. Correct.
From your Type C friend.
Yeah, so it was held by them, and it was an appreciation dinner for SM Lee in his honor, where he gave a opening speech lah.
Yeah.
And then he talked about the role that the Indian community has played in Singapore, in building up Singapore over the years. How everything that he achieved during his time as PM can be attributed to every group in Singapore that played their part, including the Indians.
Yeah.
And he also talked about how the Indians in Singapore came from so many parts of the Indian subcontinent, including Tamils, Malayalis, Telugus, Sindhis, Punjabis, Bengalis, and Sinhalese. But he also mentioned that, we need to be cautious about the inflow and integration of new arrivals with utmost sensitivity to ensure that it's balanced and sustainable. Basically, kind of like saying that, Singapore should help immigrants and foreign workers adapt to our country's social norms while protecting against nativism and xenophobia.
Yeah.
So that was all part of his speech. But, I mean, it was just on Reddit or online forums, quite a lot of people not happy lah.
Yeah, correct.
But what do you think they're not happy, Terence?
I mean, it's not just in Singapore, right? You see what's going on in Canada, like when Justin Trudeau just stepped down. It's to do with immigration. A lot of it is due to unhappiness over immigration policies. In the US, there's a big debate about H-1B visas, especially for high-skilled workers coming from India, right, specifically. So there's a lot of tension and debates going on about this particular topic of welcoming immigrants, high-skilled immigrants from other countries, right? So over here, you see us Singaporeans also being told that, don't be nativist as well, right? Don't seek to protect what you think is your land and everything as well, and become a xenophobe and everything. So, in some sense, there seems to be a growing discontent with the expectations of what immigrants bring to your country versus the realities of what immigrants have brought to your country, right? And if you go through the Reddit comments here, there's a lot of talk of other countries bringing their culture here, right? That's my understanding of it. I'm still reading it and trying to understand it. But what were your immediate thoughts when you saw this?
I mean, okay, the headline of the CNA article is Singapore should help immigrants, foreign workers adapt to country's social norms. For Straits Times, Singapore must manage new arrivals with utmost caution, but also stand firm against nativism. I mean, in some sense, it's always a tricky thing, right? That with more foreigners coming to Singapore, because we can't survive on our own birth rate, we need people to come, and then it causes disconnect. Could feel like, that's gonna be polarizing, lah. I mean, like when I read it to a certain extent, I did feel like, okay, so it's on the part of the citizen, lah, And okay, granted, this context he was at a dinner, with organized by SINDA with all the preeminent Indians in Singapore. I think 2,000 people attended. No?
Yeah.
I don't know where the hell it was held. 2,000 people is a lot. So it was with the context of talking about the Indian community that has been part of Singapore's rise. But it feels like it's one of those things that, we all have to do our part. We must do so many things, Terrence.
Correct. Yeah. But I think, usually we very on the side, we always reference Reddit, right?
Yeah.
But maybe in this point, it might be good of us to actually quote the top comments that we see on Reddit about this post, right? And sort of discuss them one by one, because I think there's a lot of different layers to this, to the discontent towards immigrants that we're talking about.
Okay,
right?
you have any that...
Yeah, so the first one that I see is, the comment is, they are missing the point. I believe Singaporeans are accepting of newcomers, but they must be willing to integrate themselves to our culture and civic behavior, not the other way around. So, Harish, when you read something like that, what do you think about it?
I mean, that sort of comment also is a bit of a blanket statement, Are all Singaporeans really accepting of newcomers? And are all newcomers really not willing to integrate themselves? I think that's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
Because it's very, it got 483 upvotes. It's a dangerous thought.
Yeah. I think, there are people you meet along the way who will be living their own little bubbles, expats, right? Especially, who will be living their own bubbles and not trying to integrate with society. But I have definitely personally met also expats, who are trying to integrate into local society a bit more, with actions that really, they do even more than I do in terms of contributing to the community, right? So, I agree with you, that sometimes a bit of a blanket statement when people are angry about this, right?
Yeah.
But when you say integrating themselves to our culture and civic behavior, right? It sounds to me like there really is, it's something about the behavior that they're not happy with, right? I for one, I think I've spoken quite openly about it before, the behavior when it comes to queuing and stuff like that, right? All these respecting norms in society when it comes to things like queuing and all that. I have seen instances where this is breached, but it's not exclusively by one particular race or nationality or foreigners or so, right? So it might be it might have more to do with the fact that they don't understand Singaporean norms, for example, chopping seats and things like that also, right? That might take more. We might just need to be more assertive or more clearer in our communication about what are the norms in Singapore.
But this sort of communications, you think it's like when you're waiting in line for a food court and then you see someone in the queue who's like, oh, what is that tissue packet over there? Someone may have left it.
Yeah.
You would tell them, sorry to interrupt your conversation. This is actually a norm in Singapore.
Correct.
Where my fellow Singaporeans and I routinely use tissue packets to, chop table. So,
Yeah.
Like, what sort of context?
No, I think, I don't know if I mentioned to on podcast before, but I think I told you before where there needs to be, I think if you see some kind of behavior that is not in line with what so-called civic behavior is, and you can actually call it out in a you don't have to confront the person in a very angry way, but just very gently remind them, right? Oh, there's a line behind here. You do need to queue up for this. We're all waiting, right? But I think for the most part, Singaporeans, we generally have become quite docile and non-confrontational. So a lot of times when I tell my friends, hey, how come you never, call out the person for jumping queue, or they will say, oh, I don't want to stoop to that level, or, things like that.
So that's not even docile. That's like hiding behind, I'm better than you, lah.
Kind of hiding behind saying that we're civilized, that kind of thing. But I do feel that there will be a period where we need to really be more assertive about what norms are, right? Because I think for many, many years, we've been sort of like trained to just follow what government says and all that, right? But this kind, in terms of like cultural behaviors, all that, we kind of need to tell people what the cultural norms are in our country, lah.
So if you see like an Indian family, going to a shop and saying, "Can I get a bottle of jam tarts?" You're like, shut up!
Sorry,
shut up! Yeah, we don't call it jam tarts here, okay? It's fucking pineapple tarts.
Yeah. So I'm not advocating for that kind of calling out. I'm just saying you can gently. Just like, what? Sorry? Oh, I didn't understand, because locally we call it pineapple tarts.
Hey, if you say it like that, I will want to slap you in the face, no?
That's you, lah.
Sorry, I don't understand, because we call it pineapple tarts. You call it jam, but I don't understand.
It's a friendly way. It's a friendly way of just reminding you.
Please, that smirk on your face.
From me. But I'm saying your service staff can be trained to do it properly, lah. And so, that also is another part. I think service staff also need to be trained to deal with the situations, right? And guard against things like, like queue cutting is a very big thing, right? Yeah. So which I think service staff can be trained for these kind of situations.
So even then, right, it will be on the company to have to train the service staff. Correct. Which made me think, like, okay, there's a lot of like, okay, we as citizens need to do our part.
Yeah.
Right? We as business owners need to do our part. Then I was thinking, but like, are there any integration programs in Singapore for people who are coming to Singapore and all? And I mean, the most I could find was like an integration and naturalizations champions network, which is a voluntary program apparently in Singapore for people to run by PA, I think. It's for to help new citizens settle in the community, lah.
Yeah.
But I mean, other countries, of course, these countries also, whatever I say will. The reality of what's happening now is going to be contradictory, lah. Like Canada, apparently they have programs also, but that's optional. Australia, immigrants applying for permanent residency or citizenship must take an Australian values test. Germany mandates an integration course. Netherlands, there is a civic integration exam. So you get countries where a lot of these are mandated, lah.
Yeah.
Of course, when you look at Germany, Australia, Canada, they all have their problems with immigration.
they're not the shining examples of integration, lah.
I think even in Scandinavia. So I think it's one of those things that, okay, so maybe, by saying we have all these induction programs, integration programs that are mandated, but there are still issues. I think when I hear things like this being spoken by our leaders, it almost makes it seem like if anything goes wrong, it's our fault.
It's our fault, yeah.
And that's where sometimes I feel it can be a bit destructive, because then you're acknowledging that, yes, it needs to be treated with caution, it needs to be this, but if, we all need to do our part to integrate them. Yes, we all need to do our part. But then what about the other side of it, lah?
Yeah.
What is the institutional efforts that is being done to integrate these people, lah? And that's where I feel like, it's missing the point, but a different kind of point, lah.
Yeah. And lest you think that we are asking for the impossible, right? Singapore actually, remember during COVID, when we had, we were one of the, in some of the ways, maybe some of the stricter measures that we had in place, right, in terms of socially mixing and everything. And then there were always a couple of like fringe cases of people who refused to follow the guidelines and the rules and all that, right? And I think we came down on him pretty damn hard, right? And we said, like, this is not how it's going to be done in Singapore. and
get out.
I know you claim to be the what was it, the free citizen of a sovereign nation, or this claim to be a sovereign citizen or stuff like that, right? But this is not how we're going to do it in our country, right?
Yeah.
And I think we were very, very firm about these
Even
things.
Lazarus Island, right? That whole group of expats.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And okay, looking back, you can say that, there was this hysteria going on with COVID or whatever, right? But the point is that everyone at that point in Singapore felt scared, right? And but we also felt safer in Singapore than a lot of other places around the world.
Yeah.
So we've shown that we can, if we want to, almost like institutionalize a lot of these things that we hold true and dear as Singaporean norms, right? Of course, there'll be a bit of a debate about what they should be, but I think orderliness, cleanliness, those are two very big things that we care a lot about in Singapore, right? And maybe in some way that needs to go into that so-called integration courses and all that people would take coming to Singapore. Because remember, I think, was it Pritam or what that proposed English
test, right?
English test, mandatory English for immigrants and all that as well, right? So
which you and I had very differing views
different
on.
Different views, yeah. But maybe that's what we just need to have more of, be assertive about what a Singaporean culture or norms are, and really just over time we can debate them, but over time we want everyone who comes to Singapore to understand what it is. We're not just like a lot of people say here, open leg policy, right? You just come and just use just live in Singapore and be happy, and then you just leave when
you think like people should be penalized to different extents if they are local versus foreign?
Penalized for what?
Like, let's say recently there was a guy who was peeing on the handrail at Outram Park MRT.
Yeah.
I mean, in the article, they haven't said anything about whether he's Singaporean or not. But just from the video that I saw, I'm like, okay, he looks like a Singaporean.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So are you saying that, okay, if Singaporean does that, you're like, okay, this is not really our norm, but okay, we will punish you. But if you come from another country and pee on our handrails, right, we're like, we don't do this.
No, but the punishment should be the same, right? I think what I'm saying is that maybe in the course of even coming to Singapore, there needs to be mandatory, like this kind of educational, institutionalized educational programs or what for them to better understand what some of the norms are, right? Like going to Japan, for example, it's a very big culture shock even for us Singaporeans. When you go into a train and then you want to talk loudly to your family, everyone stares at you like, "What the fuck are you doing?" That kind of thing. And in some ways, they're not shy about it, right? That is really like their cultural norm, and they just enforce it in their own ways, whereas Singapore, we're like, please come, please, we're open to everyone, open to foreigners, whatever. Please come.
So we need to have more pride,
Yeah, pride and be more assertive about some of these things,
Or we start another program, because if you zoom out, right, basically the thing we keep hearing is why we need foreigners to come to Singapore is because we need to maintain our workforce. Our birth rate is not high enough to sustain our population.
Yep.
So, now as a new parent, I have gone past the phase of being, childless.
Yeah.
Very thankfully.
Yeah.
And I know, like, having children and all, there are many things that go into it. But if there are, couples who maybe choose not to have children when they can, because they want to live a free and easy lifestyle, they should be the point persons to educate the foreigners and get them to integrate.
Why?
So the dinks lah.
Why?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just salty. I'm like, hey, hello. Because when I read this, right, I'm like, okay, in addition to everything that we have to do, somehow we have to do this as every citizen. And I was thinking, no, some citizens, they want to lead their dink life, go and fire all. Yeah. Okay, every Sunday they have to have tea with Suraj, and then the next Sunday have tea with Chingren, and then just integrate lah.
But why
dinks?
Why specifically the dinks? I'm like trying to,
because I used to be a dink parent.
Yeah. So but some people don't have children, like also not by choice.
Oh no, I'm saying by choice.
Oh, okay.
Not by choice. Yeah, that one totally understand.
Yeah,
by choice.
So you want to penalize people who are child free lah? That's what you're saying.
Intentionally child free.
And whereas you're doing your national service and you've contributed more to Singapore's society.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing my part, man. And somehow still need to like spend time like integrating these people. And I mean, I say that of course in jest.
Yeah.
Of course, we both have friends like what you said who have come to Singapore and done so much for Singapore, even more than us. I'm just saying, like, there's one group, right?
Yeah.
The dinks.
Yeah. But that one, I think people on Reddit will come out and slap you for saying
They
that.
will, they will. Yeah. All these dink threads, lah.
Yeah. All these
dink threads, yeah.
parents having this sense of entitlement, right? That just because they made a bad life decision or life choice, other people have to pay for it.
Tell you, some of those threads, right? Walao, eh. There's all this, like, fire early and, like, all these kind of things. It's just wow.
Correct.
Go and integrate.
But just to also just talk about other Reddit comments also, right? Someone else also asked, then we serve NS for fuck. And this one has like 380 upvotes. So I'm sure a lot of people agree with this sentiment. Because the idea is like, hey, we have to care so much about, foreigners coming in or immigrants coming here. But then we have to go and serve NS, be slaves for 2 years or so. And then they just enjoy the fruits of our labor in NS. Like they enjoy the peace and prosperity and going out late at night and coming and being their children being safe and all that. How come that's not like factored in terms of asking Singaporeans to stand firm against nativism, right? Because nativism at its essence, if you try to define nativism, it is the policy of protecting the interests of native-born or established inhabitants against those of immigrants, right? And national service ultimately is about protecting your local soil by native-born Singaporeans, right? Mainly, and against not say immigrants, but foreign incursions, right? So yeah. NS, like this the big thing, like why are we chiding Singaporeans on nativism, but at the same time like telling them national service
it's a duty.
It's a duty.
It's a duty, yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's the opportunity cost, lah. 2 years where you're not working in the professional workforce. Yeah, there is a case to be made that you feel slighted, lah.
Yeah.
But that feels like it can be addressed by like more directly addressing the concerns or the how you say the cynicism people have towards NS, lah. And I mean, I think as recent as last year, it was someone in Parliament, a minister or another MP from the incumbent did say that it should be seen as a duty. And those sort of things, it feels like then it kind of like makes it, of course we are obligated to serve NS and we should be grateful that we are given the chance to serve NS. So then you can understand why that comment gets so many upvotes.
Correct. But how do you differentiate against nativism and serving NS, right? Like trying to instill in people a sense that you're protecting your home, your locals and your soil. But then, you talk about standing firmly against nativism and xenophobia, right? How do you square those two?
I mean, because if I were in charge of comms or something, NS is about protecting Singapore. Singapore is made up of even people who don't serve NS. Your wives, your children. But that's still part of Singapore. And there might be people who, have not served NS, but it's about protecting Singapore. Whereas nativism is like just individuals, and I think that's where it can get dangerous, because the moment you are not from here or not born here, then you are a problem. When in some sense, there are people who have come to Singapore, including my parents, your parents, and actually contributed in Singapore's rise. So I mean, that's what I would say in comms.
So just like what we said at the start, not a blanket statement of saying that all foreigners are not integrating to Singapore society, right? No, saying that that foreigners are not willing to integrate themselves to our culture and civic behavior, right?
Yeah. And I guess like NS is also protecting against people who our government does not want invading us. But for people who our government wants to bring in and attract, then it's different.
It's different.
But
all this is really very, like I mentioned at the start, the whole world is grappling with these issues of immigration and all that, right? So we're just another country also dealing with these issues as well.
Yeah, and that's all the more reason why I think it should be de-emphasized that, it is because of society's refusal to integrate people who come. And I think it is really a problem that we need to acknowledge exists. And I don't think it's just can be just like, oh, down to an individual. It's like climate crisis.
Yeah.
You tell everybody, okay, don't take that plastic straw.
Yeah.
But if the bigger problems are not solved, the corporate structures and all that kind of stuff are not solved, the actions of an individual is going to be inconsequential.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's like spending more energy to really properly define what Singapore culture means, right, is a very important exercise, right? And it's not about, creating films that can economic viability of Singapore films or Singapore music scene or whatever, right? But it's creating a culture, a very unique culture, and an identifier, right? The identifier that points out who you are as a Singaporean. We've had a very self-deprecating, self-hating approach to a lot of things that we've done around. We've created in Singapore, whether it's Singlish, even our local art scene and everything. You ask a random person on the street if they've watched a Singapore movie or listened to Singapore music anytime recently, and usually you get some kind of like there's no talent here and stuff like that, right? And I feel that that's a failure of the institutions to foster that kind of Singapore creative scene, and that has over the years led to us saying that we got no culture here. So what is there? What culture are we guarding? Against foreign incursions like that,
Yeah, and I mean, to anyone who thinks, Singapore content will always be shit and all, like just over the weekend, I think I was talking to, can't remember, and we were just talking about how CNA is producing great content, and if you think about 10 years ago, I don't think people spoke about CNA in that regard.
Yeah.
But now when you hear CNA documentary, you already know that there is some standard, probably. Right? Yeah. Which to me, I'm like, hey, shit. Yeah, anyone who says, no matter who in Singapore, local content will never be good. CNA is winning international awards, beating other journalistic outlets, and getting, I think, instilling a lot of pride in Singaporeans, right? Hey, we can make good content.
Yeah.
So yeah. And wouldn't say it's a lack of talent. It's just structurally there are things there that helped elevate it. So yeah.
And also just we need to understand is we are running a marathon and not a sprint, right? And you invest in your arts, your culture, you're not going to see returns in 5 years, maybe even 10, but it's like a longer scale, 30 years, 20-30 years, right? But that will have a very big effect on the social fabric of your country. So yeah, now it really sounds like the coffee shop uncle complaining about these things. But I think it's an important discussion to have, given everything that's happening in Canada and the US and also.
Yeah. That is true. But cool, man. All right. Cool. What about your one Shiok comment of the week?
So I think last episode we asked people to go on YouTube and comment about when you have started listening to Yalla Butler, right? Because that was something that we felt like it would be interesting to sort of just gauge where people are at or where they're coming from, right? So yeah, I got a lot of good comments and people saying that, I got addicted in 2024 and all that. But I think some of the nicest comments are really about from some people who talked about listening to the podcast. This one was quite interesting.
There's a lot.
There's a lot. This one says, initially I was not keen on listening to your introduction segment, but I changed my mind when I was listening to your last episode when Terence was sharing about his declutter of his SAF stuff. He brought out so many important points about decluttering and moving on, and he even talked about the wayang culture. That gave a lot of food for thought, and that intro itself can go on for an hour. So I will not be skipping the intro forever for now. See, us talking about what we do on the weekend make people think about decluttering and emptying things out from their lives and all.
Yeah, so you have been clicking on the skip the intro part, which Tristan very hardworkingly helps to annotate, and you have not been listening to our intro.
Yeah,
you might be missing out, man.
Yeah.
Missing out big time.
Just another quick one, since there were quite a number. There was one say that I started listening a couple of weeks ago after seeing your videos pop up for a while. Blah blah blah, and then I had to admit I had to hold in my laughter a few times while listening to you in a quiet office space. I do like the intro segments and recently noticed efforts you will go to get a smooth segue between news stories as well. Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers, man.
Yeah.
Oh, solid.
So for all you people skipping the intro, you don't know what you're missing out on.
It's not going anywhere, man. You'll be there forever.
Yeah.
All right, cool. My one Shiok comment is from someone who emailed us. I mean, since it's email, I won't say the name, but if this person's listening, they would definitely know who they are. And I think she comments quite a bit on Instagram as well. Okay. But basically, they shared their thoughts on the NRIC issue, and they wrote like an email about 2 points that they had questions about in relation to the whole issue. And very well thought out lah. And even sent a follow-up email to correct some typos, which means they were reading it after they sent it. So yeah, thank you so much. And she signed off by, I love your show. It makes me less lonely about my obsessions. Because it was drilling down deep into certain questions. So yeah, very thoughtful lah. And to spend the time to write out an email on in the evening of the week. Salute to you, man.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Cool. And what about your one Shiok thing?
In the theme of decluttering, or at least not so much decluttering, but leaving stuff behind. There's a YouTube channel, tech reviewer that I follow called Pal to Tech. Again, not a huge channel, maybe almost 200,000 subscribers, but not that huge. Interesting video because the video is titled All That You Can Leave Behind. And he basically shared that he hasn't been uploading as frequently as he'd like in the last week because his family home was burnt down in Los Angeles, in the Los Angeles wildfires. So not him, but his parents' home.
Yeah.
So he just shared about, he shared about what he learned from the whole thing. And he shared this anecdote about there was this baby chair in the house where I think his grandparents, his mother, his father, himself, or his mother, or himself, his daughters, and I don't know, I think he mentioned his granddaughter even now, have all sat and grown up in that baby chair.
Oh my God.
And that baby chair has the names carved on it and everything, and it all got destroyed in the fire. So his big message was to, if you have any photos or anything that's very important to you right now, please go out and just digitize them. Because, you never know when something like that could happen. And overnight, you just lose all these memories that you have of your home. But he also shared a very nice anecdote that I think he talked about in the video where because of the fire also, for the first time in his life, he reconnected with his older brother who he hadn't talked to in like many years and all that.
Oh, is it?
And because they're trying to figure out how to help their parents, right? So for the first time, he's actually felt like they're trying to solve this together as a family. So there's some silver linings behind the cloud.
And which creator is this again?
Pal to Tech, like PAL 2, number 2 Tech. So I mean it's just a standard very tech focused channel and or even camera focused channel. But then he made this video which I thought was it's pretty interesting because it talks about the real effects of like losing everything that you have overnight.
Damn.
Which is something that, we hard to imagine, right? You don't imagine this kind of things happening to you in a first world country, especially.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. Damn. Okay. My one Shiok thing is an article I came across on The Guardian, I think.
Yeah.
Where, how in Singapore, it's always nice to see these old buildings be repurposed for new things, right?
Yeah.
I think certain black and white buildings and all. So in the Netherlands, apparently, there have been 3 prisons that were stopped being used as prisons and have now been rejuvenated as cultural hubs. And more specifically, there was this one penitentiary in the Netherlands called Koppel Gevangenis. I'm guessing I'm butchering that. But basically, it's been now converted into, there's like cafes and a bunch of studios. And why this building is so interesting is because it is one of 3 panoptic penitentiaries. And I had no idea what the hell panoptic penitentiary means. It's a panopticon.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a structure of a prison where it's a dome and there are cells around the wall and there is a watchtower in the middle. So apparently it was pioneered by this one philosopher Jeremy Bentham that believed that by having a watchtower in the middle of a circular prison, you will make every prisoner feel they're being watched without actually having to watch them.
Yeah.
And psychologically fuck with them.
Yeah.
So now, one of those have been converted into such a cool space. There are podcast studios in what used to be cells.
Yeah.
And it's damn cool. I mean, thankfully, we don't have that many prisons in Singapore. The reason why these penitentiaries were kind of decommissioned was because they were trying to reduce the number of incarcerations in Netherlands.
Yeah.
But to see it be like repurposed like this, right? Pretty damn cool, man. Yeah, pretty damn cool.
Wow.
So I was like, hey, shit. Like even the concept of the building also quite cool.
Yeah. I thought a lot of concentration camps.
It's all like that, is it?
Were of this design.
Panopticon.
That means a tower in the middle. Yeah. Being able to see everyone around.
Yeah, it's I never thought about the psychological impact, but it was a whole movement towards, this is optimizing for, watching all of them without actually needing to watch them. Oh, it's crazy, man.
Wow.
But yeah, it makes for a pretty cool cultural hub.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Cool. Okay, that was our first episode of the week.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully the weather stays on like this.
As long as possible. Yes.
Hopefully the weather on the other side of the world gets better.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks so much for listening. Remember to follow us on social media, TikTok, Instagram, Reddit, YouTube, Spotify. Leave us a rating, and if you want to work with us,
please check out ministryoffunny.com or email us at contact@ministryoffunny.com.
All right. Thanks, everybody, and talk to y'all soon.